Hello, hello, hello. I am John, and this is my show, A Sports Reckoning. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that, and hopefully that'll work. So, okay, so I'm just kind of bored right now, and I feel like talking about football. And even though I don't have any friends, even with all the people who I encounter, I don't think they really know how to talk football at all, anyways, and shit, right? I don't think most people actually really know football. Most people are pretty stupid and shit, right? Most people are pretty stupid in life. They're pretty stupid on every level and shit, right? They just don't get it and shit, right? It's like there was a movie about I think they were racing. Oh no, it's the cars. That was the Fast and the Furious. Yeah, that's what it was. In that first Fast and Furious, remember? And then when the white guy, the guy who got killed in the car crash, when he tells the Dominic Marino, whatever the guy that's the guy. I can't remember his name and shit either because they're not. So I can remember the name if I think about it. I always forget. But the other was when they first race and shit, right? I think it's Dom. Is I can't remember. I think it goes by Dom. But he says at the end, he says, "I almost had you, man." And it's like, dude, you never fucking had me. That's all, dude. I don't care how fucking close you came. This is a game of winners and losers. Like when we're talking about football, it's the game's over. There's a winner and a loser. There's not an I almost won. I should have won. I could have won. You fucking won or you lost, right? That's what it comes down to. And so football, that's the way it is. And so with sports cards, actually in the end result, at the end of the game, now I'm always thinking it's like, okay, when I'm looking at when you either won or you lost, I'm looking at because I'm a fan. It's a long term prospecting for me and shit, right? So I'm looking at when the guy's career is over, right? Because that's what happens. See, like SCV's only, I think maybe he's 23. I don't, he's something like that, right? Okay, I'm 51. Okay. So, like every person right now, here's like the difference in SCV's life. All of the people right now that are just coming into the league, okay, well, I've already went through that whole experience where I saw all those guys come into the league. I've seen their entire fucking careers. I've seen every playoff game. I've already seen it all. I've already seen this fucking show, right? So when people are talking, it's like, dude, all you can focus on is this small term reality of what you're focused on because you don't understand the long term game of how it actually works and shit, right? So when I'm talking about like players, to me, it's like the winning is like, okay, well, there's a lot of different aspects, but I'm always looking at the end game. Will this person have a career in the collectibles market? Will there be a market for them? And they have to be like real. They have to be desirable, where their cards are like what they call liquid. They still have to be able to have cards that are liquid. And not every card is going to be liquid, but the right players, if you have the right players and the right cards, those cards are always liquid, right? And that's, to me, that's the whole thing. That's the game, right? So, and saying anything of what I'm going to say here, first of all, it's like SCV is a professional card dealer, right? I'm not. So he's actually out there having to buy the cards, right? He invests his money, right? He has to then ship them off to be graded. Then he has to get back. Then he has to go through the process of selling them on eBay. He has to ship them out. Hope he gets paid. Hope the fucking mail doesn't destroy his cards and shit, right? So that's a lot of responsibilities, right? So there's already a lot of responsibility on what he's doing, and he is actually doing it. So I'm not saying anything about that. He is a professional card salesman, flipper, whatever, dealer, whatever you want to call it. He does that, okay? I don't, and I never have done it and shit, right? But I'm a lifelong, like, I haven't always been collecting cards, but I was collecting cards since I was young and shit. I understand cards, right? So even though all of the time when I wasn't collecting cards, I was always having cards in my mind, understanding of like this person's rookie cards or I just didn't know what cards were out there, and I didn't know what was going on and stuff in that market because I was living in the real world. And any of my spare money would have went on partying and shit. So I was never involved in that shit, which is so stupid because I look back and stuff like I can tell you an instance, like one of the things. I used to have my neighbor across the street was a black guy and shit, right? It was one of the funny ass fucking things too is I didn't know I had told him about my Michael Jackson story. So like somebody like SCB wouldn't know that the real reason why I do all my stuff or what I'm in here is that I have this story, and I say I've proven it. It hasn't officially come out, but it's still it's like so close to coming out and shit, but it's still so far away. It's one of those things I don't know, but it's there and it's done. But I've proven that Michael Jackson was actually abandoned as a child and given to the Jackson family from his real parents, Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. I've done this shit. This is like what I've been doing and shit, right? But so it was so hilarious because I had my neighbor. There was a black family. It was actually a mixed race. The one guy, the husband was white, married to a black woman. She had children, and then that her son, he had a daughter too. So like it was really like the black family over there. But so I would tell him all about my Michael Jackson story, right? And then it turns out one day he tells me his last name, and his last name is Jackson. Just fucking hilarious and shit, right? But so, anyways, I was talking with him because he's into sports and shit. He was around my age and shit, right? And we would talk about sports a lot, right? And so before Steph Curry had won a championship, I remember Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard had already left Orlando. I think he was I'm not sure where he was at, but he was definitely either leaving Orlando, but he was out there. He was looking for a team to play on. And I remember telling my friend, we were talking, there's two things that had come up. One of the things that come up is, so there was the Dwight Howard, and then there was also at that time, there was a rumor that Klay Thompson might be traded to the Lakers. And so, like, this is what I told my friend across the street. He said, like, about what we were talking about Dwight Howard. And I said, dude, if Dwight Howard wants to win, he needs to go to fucking Golden State. If you want to win, go to Golden State, right? Because then there was that thing going on with Klay Thompson, too. And because my friend was saying, what do you think about that Klay Thompson trade? I'm like, well, shit, if you're the Lakers, fuck yeah, you want Klay Thompson, right? But I'm like, if you're Golden, and I remember telling my friend exactly, because this is before the Warriors had won their first championship. And I'm like, dude, the Warriors, dude, with Curry and Thompson, because I bet on sports, right? And I was making money off of those guys, and I see what it takes to win. I know, because it's about winning and betting money and shit, right? So I know about making your bet because you got to win at the end of the game about fucking winning. And I knew that this fucking Curry and Klay Thompson, what they were doing, I was like, dude, you can win with those guys. Like, dude, those guys, I'm like, you can win, right? So I remember telling my friend the two things. I was like, dude, if fucking Dwight Howard wants to win, he should go fucking play in Golden State because that's where you want to go. If you go play with Curry and Klay Thompson, right? And I remember saying too with the Klay Thompson, like, hell no, you don't get rid of Klay Thompson. I'm like, dude, they can win. I was like, dude, they can fucking win with Curry and Klay Thompson. You can win with those guys, right? And so like that's just the kind of stuff. It's like I wish I was investing in cards back then because it's like, dude, I was like all over fucking Steph Curry. Like I was all over him. I totally knew that was fucking coming. And I think back now and it's like, damn, fuck, if I was collecting cards and shit, it's like, damn, but you still never know how things will work out and stuff. Like, for instance, like because SCV had a huge Josh Allen collection. Now, he probably didn't sell at the right time, but Josh Allen is to be sold, right? He's not. I thought it was this year for Josh Allen, but it's Mahomes stuff. It's the Mahomes and the Andy Reid combination. It's that combination. It's the Andy Reid. Once you take Andy Reid out of there, it's not going to be the same Mahomes. It's like it's kind of how like with the Patriots. It's like, okay, Tom Brady left, and now Belichick's not Belichick. They don't look anything the same and shit, right? And you're all thinking, oh, no. So right now, the deciding factor that's making the Chiefs so great is Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes is part of it. He's part of it. I get it. But it's Andy Reid is the fucking deciding factor and shit, right? So, and he's still there. And he's going to be there next year. If he's there next year and shit, watch, dude. He's the deciding factor and shit, right? He's the thing that's the put you over the level. You're really betting on Andy Reid. If you're betting on the Chiefs, you're really, really betting on Andy Reid. It's not Patrick Mahomes and shit, right? I think that's why Patrick Mahomes' value has not like really like been where it really, really should be. He still is not like getting the love. He's not getting the hobby love of what he should get, right? But if they win next year, They will accomplish something that has never, ever been accomplished. And the beginning of Patrick Mahomes' career now is so fucking dominant. It's as dominant of a career with producing titles. If he gets that 3 in a row, he will have established himself as a player in a way that very few and far between players have ever been. He will legitimately be considered as one of the greatest, and it's earned, right? But then when Andy Reid, because I keep saying Josh Allen is, unless he gets hurt, this is always barring that these players don't get hurt, because we're talking about football and shit, right? It's football. It's fucking rough out there. I hate when all these stupid motherfuckers. Now, I remember how football was. Like, one of the things about football, one of the craziest fucking things about how football used to be is the motherfuckers would get straight knocked out cold. Like, right now we know, oh, dude, he's got a concussion. We all understand exactly, like, concussions and what that means and stuff, right? But in the old days, motherfuckers would be straight knocked out cold. They would just take them over to the side and give them smelling salts. That's a thing. That's one of those. I've even looked for videos of that shit. It's hard to find. I've tried to find old videos of NFL players being given the smelling salts and shit, right? To wake them back up and shit, right? Because they were straight knocked out fucking cold and shit, right? They just give them some smelling salts. Get your ass back in the fucking game and shit, right? It was brutal. That's what was brutal about the old days. But to steal the modern day of football, now there's also like Tony Siragusa. There was Tony Siragusa. He squashed Rich Gannon, the quarterback for the Raiders, right? He squashed him. He fucking, because these are how these rules get happen. Like, you have the Raiders and the Ravens and shit, right? And Tony Siragusa gets fucking Gannon and takes him and drives him to the ground with all his weight on him. Wham! He plowed him into the ground, right? And then that's it. You injure the guy. He's hurt. He can't play anymore. And so I always am like, yeah, I remember when Siragusa squashed Gannon. He literally squashed him. He squashed his ass and shit, right? So, but these are so those kind of rules, I like that those rules are in play, because it's like, that was excessive. That's excessive. He didn't need to squash him. He had him. He could have tackled him and rolled off, but he fucking threw all, and this is Tony Siragusa. It's a big fucking dude, right? He fucking squashed his ass down into the ground, like just trying to bury him. It's just like he's burying his ass, right? So it's like, yeah, those rules, they come about and shit, right? But it's still fucking brutal out there. There's a lot of ways that are brutal. And so the people say, oh, it's soft nowadays. It's like, dude, it's fucking definitely not soft. It's not the way it used to be, but it's still an extremely violent contact sport. And those motherfuckers are big and fast, and they fucking hit hard, and they're playing for their paychecks. Motherfuckers are out there. Their coaches are saying, you got to be a fucking animal. You got to be vicious. You attack. And if you do not play that way, you will not have a fucking job. And these dudes don't want to lose their fucking paycheck, and they don't give a fuck about who they're hurting. It's offense and defense. They play defense. Their game is to attack, right? It's still football. This shit is still fucking happening, right? Because people are like, oh, it's so soft nowadays. Oh, fuck you, it's fucking soft. It's not how it was. I get it. I've seen it all. I remember the plays that made the rules change and shit, right? Like the stupid rule, like when Tom Brady got rolled up on and shit, right? The guy rolled into his knee and took his knee out, and he lost a year. He got an ACL, and that changed that rule. You can't go low to the knees and shit, right? Which is a good rule, because a quarterback's extremely vulnerable in that position. When he's in the pocket and he's throwing, he's extremely vulnerable at that position. So they need to protect him, because those guys are so valuable, and it's not fair to hit him like that. It's not fair to take out that kind of punishment. But there are other plays where the guys just hit him, and it's such a clean play, and it has the violence to it, and they call the flag. There's a lot, and they're trying to get better on that, though. They're trying to allow the natural violence of the game to still take place and shit, right? They're trying to let that take place, but still protect the quarterback and shit, right? But sometimes it's just these guys are so good, and they come in flying so fast that the fucking impact's going to be hard, because they're just moving fast and shit, right? And I hate when they fucking call those penalties, those ones when they call them on the defensive guys. Hate that fucking shit. But they've been trying to be a little bit better. As long as you don't hit the head, you go. As long as you don't go in with the helmet, you don't go to the knees, and you don't drive the guy into the ground. Usually they'll let it go. It's those things, but it's hard to see all that stuff too. It's hard to be. You got to remember the referee when that shit's happening. It's happening very, very fast, and they can't always see it as clean and stuff. They're getting better too with like working with like the people in New York in the booth. The referees are like they're working better. They're doing better and shit, right? They're getting it, and so, but it's still a fucking violent game and shit, and so. SEV was talking here about, like, he's got on his board up there to the top left, and he says, the people in red are not investable anymore, but the people in green are, okay? Now, okay, when he's talking about short term, okay? He's talking about short term right now, what he can do in short term and stuff, right? And I can't argue with him and stuff as far as stuff like that. He's okay. He knows what he's doing to a point, and it's his money, right? It's his money. He's the one buying the cards, so he's the one putting himself at risk and shit. So I can't always argue against that, but I will argue about when he's saying people are investable and they're not investable, and it's like, no, you got this wrong and shit, right? Because up there, he thinks CJ Stroud is investable. And it's like, okay, I see that CJ Stroud has a market and shit, right? But to me, on a long term, hell fucking no. As a person who's a long-term investor, you absolutely do not want to buy CJ Stroud right now because there's no fucking way he's winning the Super Bowl the next couple years. And after he doesn't win in the next couple years, his cards will come down. If you want to invest in CJ Stroud, you have to wait. Okay, now, if you're a person like SCV who's trying to make money on CJ Stroud, like I was saying, that's a different fucking story. Right now for him, because the population is really stupid, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're looking for instant gratification because these people are fucking losers. And when people are losers, they want so bad that feeling of being a winner. Right? And so it's short-term instant gratification. So somebody can buy a CJ Stroud and then he can do really good and the market will start to go up. That makes that person feel like a winner. But you are not a winner because tell me what that card's worth in 10 years, you fucking loser. Right? So CJ Stroud took a bad concussion last year. A bad one. And it was not on a play that looked really, he just kind of like this and then bam, he hit his head. And it's like, okay, so what happens if he fucking does that again and next thing you know, boom, he's all fucking tweaked out like fucking Tua, all fucking, what would you like? He was all, you have a seizure. He's all seizures. He's all seizured up. He's right. That's it. What if fucking Stroud, boom, gets a concussion and goes seizures and shit, right? We saw him already this year take a bad concussion. And people like CJ Stroud are guys that are going to look to extend the play. It's a dangerous fucking position. And he's a good-sized guy and all, but dude, you can get fucking your bell rung and shit, right? And if it gets rung, next thing you know, it could be seizured up and you be all in seizures and shit, right? So you got to be really fucking careful. CJ Stroud, first of all, I'm not saying who knows if he gets injured or, whatever. It's so easy for these motherfuckers to get injured. Now, one of the perfect person to talk about that is the Bengals, Joe Burrow. I totally agree. Joe Burrow's a really good player. And I didn't think he would have come back and been so good because he took that devastating knee injury, like what Nick Chubb is dealing with right now. It's one of those things, but these guys are getting repaired fast. I was shocked when fucking Joe Burrow came back the next year. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl because the year before he had a total collapse, just exactly like what happened to Nick Chubb. Totally devastated his fucking knee. Next year he comes back and he's playing. He's playing good. And he's a winner. Like you could see it in Joe Burrow. He's a winner. But now he's taking some injuries. Now he's probably going to lose a receiver. He's losing the other guy, not the Jamar Chase, the Higgins. I believe Higgins is leaving this year, right? So it's just going to be a different team. Different teams are different teams. And he's in a tough division. That's the other thing with like the Bengals. Dude, it's hard to play in that division. Just that division is dangerous. Like if you want to talk about probably the most dangerous division to play in is the fucking the AFC North. That division's tough and shit. They're mean. They're violent in that fucking, because you had the Ravens and the Steelers just going at it for years and shit, right? And so then the Bengals and the Browns, they know, dude, you want to win in this division, you got to be violent. You got to be vicious and shit, right? So now the Browns, look at their defense and shit. They're stepping up, and the Bengals and shit, right? So that whole division is vicious and shit, right? It's a vicious fucking division and shit. So Joe Burrow, I don't know exactly what's going to happen in his career, but I was thinking one thing is, I was talking about like the Dallas Cowboys winning maybe in the year 2030, right? There's a thing about that. I was mentioning that in a previous video and shit, right? See, this is the kind of thing. Okay, think about Joe Burrow, like who he is, right? His card's really high, really overpriced, way overpriced, right? And they're probably still overpriced now. But so you would want, if you want to, I would say Joe Burrow's absolutely not investable right now. But what you would want to do is understand his card market, understand the prices and the cards are out there that are available for him. And you wait. You wait and wait and wait, because there could be a point here where he plays out his time in Cincinnati, and then after his contract's done, and then maybe he's looking for a team to go. Maybe he goes to Dallas. So Joe Burrow, it's like, okay, let's say Joe Burrow never wins in Cincinnati, right? And maybe there's a year he doesn't make the playoffs. Maybe he gets another injury and shit, but he's still around. There is that thing in him where you can see it. He can win. Joe Burrow can win. He is a winner. But is he going to win anytime soon? I don't think so. He had his shots the last couple of years and shit, right? He had his shots, and I don't see them getting any better. And the division's not getting any worse and shit, right? The whole conference is not getting any worse and shit. It's gonna be hard. I don't think he's gonna make it. So, like with him, I would say you definitely don't want to invest in him now. But does that mean that he's not investable? Absolutely not, because he's still got a big fan base of people who do like him. And even if he leaves Cincinnati, he's the kind of guy that, like I said, you want their cards to be cheap. If you want to invest in them, it's all about buy low, sell high and shit for the most part, except for like a Patrick Mahomes and shit. Patrick Mahomes, his prices they're definitely not overinflated. Patrick Mahomes' prices are definitely not overinflated. And he's got everything. He's got it all. He has fucking everything. And his cards still are not overinflated and shit, right? They're having to still shill his cards to get the price up, because they all know that those cards should be selling consistently for more than they are and shit, right? But I think that the real hardcore investors, I think it's the Andy Reid thing, that they're scared to go in on him and shit, right? Because they still want to see more. They're like, okay, we're going to pay for him, and really, there's still more. Even with all that he's done, we still got to see more. But if he wins next year and wins that 3 championships in a row, that will put him in the eternal folklore of fucking football. He will eternally be in the folklore and then he won't have to do anything else after that for his cards to always be liquid in the future. He'll always have liquidity of his cards in the future market. But I would say if he does win the 3 championships, and then that's why I say right now I think his cards are still investable, because if he wins the 3 championships, that's when he gets his big boost. Then when he gets that boost, then is when you want to sell. You want to dump it all, because there will be a lull in his career where he's not going to be playing with Andy Reid, where they're not going to win championships, and those card prices will come back down. And then when they come back down, you want to swoop in and grab some premium quality Patrick Mahomes that you can hold on to for your long-term investment and shit, right? But you have to play it. You have to play it so you're buying low and selling high and quick, moving it here and there. But so like right now in the thing, Patrick Mahomes is the only guy that I would tell you right now that it has a decent price on him that I would still say still is investable. He's probably the only one that I could think of as any quarterbacks out there. He's still the only one that's like, well, even at his prices now, they're still to me undervalued for Patrick Mahomes. But then if he wins next year and his prices really go up, I would instantly say sell, because he's not going to keep that up. So that's when you want to sell, dump it all, wait for it to crash back down, and then come in and pick up a few premium cards that you will hold for the long-term game, because he will have eternal fucking value as a long-term collection. Okay, but CJ Stroud, hell no. Hell no. You don't want nothing. I don't want anything to do with CJ Stroud. Not right now. Not if I'm somebody who's a collector. Now, if I'm somebody like SCV, yeah, I'm buying CJ Stroud because he knows that CJ Stroud's still going to be hot in the market next year. I totally agree with that, right? But those people, they're all going to be left holding the bag and shit. Everybody who's buying CJ Stroud next year, you at the high prices, you're just dumb. You people are just dumb. You don't know what the fuck you're doing. You don't know football. You don't have an idea. And I think the Texans are a team building because they've got all those draft picks like that they got from Cleveland and shit, right? And they've got some fucking players there and shit. They've still got draft picks and stuff to work it. But like I said, you can have all that stuff. That doesn't mean CJ Stroud's not going to break his ankle, or get tackled and boom, there goes his shoulder and shit, separated shoulder. Now he's out for the year and shit, right? And then you get a few years of kind of stuff like that. You get a concussion, you get a separated shoulder, boom, you're not making the playoffs. Next thing you know, you don't get signed to your fucking next contract and shit. Next thing you know, Texans drop you because now they're looking at the new young stud that's coming up because they're thinking, well, do we want to pay CJ Stroud $200 million? Or should we go ahead and let him go and just pick up some fucking young guy? And because we have enough of a defense and a bunch of other players of how we can game manage the game. And they're forced to do that a lot of times. They're forced to not pay the guys and shit, right? So it's like there's so many variables of what you have to look at. And you have all these other players who are fucking good and shit, right? But you have to wait for their opportunity. So what I was saying about with Burrow is I think that like the Cowboys in coming up, you're going to have to wait a few years, but towards like the year 2030, somewhere in there, I think that they'll win another championship. But I think that they're going to there'll be a quarterback out there that they'll buy, which would be like a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence. Somebody like that. Somebody that's good, that never won championships and shit and all that kind of stuff. They're gone from their original team. They've played the years, but they never really achieved greatness, but they'll still be around in the league. Somebody that's got real talent, that has skills that actually can win, right? Somebody that now they'll be a veteran. And if you put them on a right kind of team, like a system, like a Dallas Cowboys and shit, right? Bring in a real quarterback, then you can win with those guys. So that's why I say, like, if you want a Joe Burrow or a Trevor Lawrence and shit, wait till their markets completely fucking crash. And then go in and pick up a few premium fucking cards at really cheap and wait for them to get kicked off of the team they're on now. Wait for them to go ahead and go to another team where they can win a fucking Super Bowl and shit, right? So he's got on this list, like, okay, like one of the players he said is not investable is Jared Goff. And it's like, dude, did you not see the fucking Lions and shit this year? Dude, they're going to be fine next year too. They're going to be better. They're going to have a better defense and shit. Because see, now one of the things is like a lot of players as free agents, you wouldn't want to go play in Detroit, right? That would be like, I ain't going to Detroit. I'll take a little bit less to go play on a team that's fucking got a shot, right? So for all those years, that's one of the things about being a losing team. You've got to show that you're not that fucking loser franchise anymore. And once you do show that you're not that loser franchise anymore, now you can start signing free agents. You can get some good quality pieces. People will want to come play on your team. Is what you're going to see happen in Detroit. Detroit's going to get better again, right? Which means now that they're going to be competing. That team is legit. And if something happens to Mahomes, who's not to say that it's not the Lions that win the Super Bowl? Like I heard on last night on the Off Centered, and Dustin was talking about with Flip and Steve, and they were talking about the Super Bowl. And Dustin's like, "Oh, the Niners almost won, and Purdy looked good, and all this shit, right?" And it's like, no, you definitely can't say Purdy they were up 10, and you can't give me that spiel. And because the fact of the matter is that the Packers beat the shit out of the fucking Niners, and so did Detroit Lions. And that 49ers team is as loaded as a team as you can get. And the reason it's so loaded, because they ain't paying Purdy 40, 50 million fucking dollars. So they fucking loaded that team. That team was as loaded as a team I've ever fucking seen. They had it all, everything. But they have this quarterback that he's playing okay, but he sure as hell hasn't proven that he can win a Super Bowl. And he sure as hell hasn't proven that he can win on his own. He hasn't done any of that fucking shit. So Purdy is absolutely fucking not investable, right? But he's got Purdy He's got CJ Stroud in green, and he's got Brock Purdy in green. So I'm like flat out saying those two guys, you would have to be dumb as fuck to invest into if you're a collector. If you're a collector, those are two guys you absolutely do not buy. You do not. If you go buy a box and you pull some CJ Stroud rookie, cool. Like I think I got a CJ Stroud fireworks in a Prism box, one of the things, but just the base fireworks card. So I got like that rookie and shit, right? But so I got that. But I'm not going to go buy any fucking Stroud shit. And but yeah, I like the card. It's cool. Even the base card, for me, okay, it's just cool. It's a cool little card to have. I like it. I was glad I got it. But I would not go buying any Stroud. But if you're like a SCV, that's different because he's buying and selling and shit, right? But so like on his list there, the people he's telling you, the people that are investable, CJ Stroud, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love. And the only one there that's investable is Jordan Love. Jordan Love, because Jordan Love does not need to win next year. Jordan Love doesn't need to win the year after that. All Jordan Love needs to do is win his division because he's on a team with a long historical franchise thing, and they've had the quarterbacks. Before Jordan Love, you got Aaron Rodgers. Before him, it's fucking Brett Favre. So, like, over the last fucking 30 years, they've only had two quarterbacks, right? So, that's the kind of player of what it looks like Jordan Love. He's going to be this long-term fucking quarterback for a team that has a huge fucking fan base and shit, right? And all he needs to be doing consistently to appease the fan base, he needs to win that division. And in that division, he's got Detroit now, though. That's seeing Detroit stepping up and shit, right? So those are going to be, that could be like one of the best new rivalries out there and shit, right? One of these new, and see, that's what I'm saying. You could get this attention because now you can start building a rival. Now you've got a rival team to compete against. It could be like these Detroit and Green Bay games. They could be these eternal classic fucking rivalry now. They could go because Jared Goff's still young enough. He could easily play another 5 years in Detroit. I mean, that's not even a question. Yes, he easily could fucking play another 5 years in fucking Detroit. And Jordan Love could easily play another 5 years in Green Bay. So the next 5 years, we're going to have a fucking killer rivalry right there and shit, right? Which that's what they want. They just wanted you to be in that rival. The fans get all that excitement and shit, right? And he's going to show that he can win the division and they can battle and fight, which will always mean that team's got a chance to win and shit, right? As long as you're always knocking on the door, then that's fine. And then he just needs to win one, like in maybe 5 years he wins one. If he did that, that's all a player like that would have. Remember, Aaron Rodgers only won one Super Bowl, and he only went to one Super Bowl, right? I think he only went to one. And he looked horrible the last few years in Green Bay when he was there. Man, he looked horrible, getting beat by Frisco and shit. He looked bad and shit too. He didn't look good. And I consider Aaron Rodgers one of the best quarterbacks, no doubt about it. As far as an actual like a passer, the skills of what he had, I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the best ones I've fucking ever seen and shit, right? No doubt about it. But still, he only went to one Super Bowl, But every fucking year he was competing. Same thing with like a Peyton Manning and shit, right? Peyton Manning was a serious Super Bowl contender every fucking year, but he only won one, and the team he beat is is probably the worst team I've seen in the Super Bowl. There's another thing too in that off center. They were talking about game managers, and they were talking about the. I had his name in my head, and it just went away. But it was the quarterback that won for the Ravens and shit, right? His name, because he's not a real big name and shit. His name just went out of my head. It'll come into me a hit later and shit, right? But they were talking about it's not the Flacco, it's the other guy that won with the Ravens and shit, right? They were talking about him being a game manager. It's like, yeah, he was a fucking game manager in that system. But after that, he went to fucking Seattle. And he was fucking balling because they were trying to act like, oh, he wasn't a good quarterback and shit, right? He was just a game manager. And it's like, no, he was playing his role on that team and he played it well. And when he needed to make the play, he made his play. Because then when he went to Seattle, he was balling out. He was fucking straight doing Trent Dilfer. He was balling out in fucking Seattle. Then he got hurt and his career was over and shit. But when he was there, he was fucking playing really fucking good. The dude was a winner. The dude was actually a really fucking good quarterback. He was a starting quarterback that could lead a team and shit. But then he got hurt and it all went down and shit, right? But no, he showed that he was much more than a game manager. So that's why I don't like when people put that label on him as a game manager. It's like, yeah, he was game managing when fucking he won the Super Bowl and shit, right? But no, when he after that, when he left and went to Seattle, he was balling out and shit. The motherfucker was really fucking good and shit. So throw that in there. Like I said, I've seen all these fucking guys play, seen what happened to their careers and shit, right? And so now, like, so the people he's saying are not investable. Lamar Jackson is definitely not investable. He's not going to win I don't think he ever wins a Super Bowl. No, he's not. He's not. And it's sad to say. It's sad to say, but it's one of those things you got to be reality to say. The way he talks is so fucking ghetto. He has that ghetto way of speaking. And I don't think that the league absolutely does not want to allow that fucking guy. I thought this year, it's like one of those things, it's like one of those things, maybe they're going to let the black guy, the real black guy and shit, right? Maybe they're going to let this, but it's like, no, they've got an image to protect. And that's too low class, too dumb ghetto. They're not going to let him win. He's too, the way he speaks is too dumb ghetto form of speech. I don't think he will ever fucking win a Super Bowl. And there's too many other good guys out there that are going to knock him off. And he's never shown that he can lead a team to victory in a big game. In the big games, he always shows when he has to go back and actually play quarterback, it seems like he sucks. But then you look back at that, and it's like, well, dude, if the fucking receiver, the kid, Zay Flowers doesn't fuck up and shit, right? Then the Zay Flowers, he started, after he fucked up, he started crying and bitching over on the sidelines, and I'm like, damn, that looks like a goddamn young Odell Beckham Jr. and shit, crying and whining and shit. So it's like, dude, you don't want that guy on your team, not until he matures, because now Odell Beckham Jr. is totally matured. He doesn't do that shit. I think he's a really good role player now. Odell Beckham, he's exactly the kind of guy I would want on my team now. Yeah, I'd want him on my team because he's been through all that shit. He's had to fight now to just get a job and to rehab and all that stuff. He's matured. I really like Odell. He doesn't have his superstar talent, but he's still got talent, and he's way more mature. He's consistent. You can trust in him. I would totally take Odell Beckham on my team now and shit, right? But that Zay Flowers was bitching and crying and moaning, and it's like, dude, don't trust that motherfucker. It's like, those are not the guys you want. You don't want those fucking guys on your team and shit, right? But it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, they almost. The reason I'm saying that's like because it shows like, well, maybe it wasn't Lamar Jackson's fault because it was the stupid Zay Flowers is the one that actually fucked it up and shit, right? They were still kind of close and shit, but in the reality, they did not win. They didn't get it done, and you got a lot of other teams are out there. There's just a lot. It's tough out there. It is rough out there. It's brutal and shit. It's hard to fucking win the Super Bowl. And you got to think about what are these people's careers going to look like when they're over and shit, right? Now, because that's what I'm saying. There's a total difference between what SEV is talking about buying cards now, selling them in a few months and shit, you buy them, you move them, you make your profit quick, you keep it moving. So what he's talking about, it's a much different thing about like what I'm talking about. I'm talking about long-term, who are investable. And just because like Josh Allen, I would say, no, Josh Allen right now is not investable. Like what he's saying, Josh Allen's not investable. But I would definitely say Josh Allen as an eternal long-term investment guy, Josh Allen is 100% absolutely like one of your prime guys to who you want to be investing in. It's Josh Allen. Dude, he is legit as fuck, dude. I like that the team he's on and the fan base, and they're getting a new stadium and shit, right? There's a lot, and then you don't have to be in the big cities a lot of time because if your fan base is so fucking rabid and shit, right? Like a Buffalo, man, they're fucking, that's a good place. I like the Buffalo Bills and shit, right? As a football team. I don't care about the city of Buffalo, but as a football team, I like the Buffalo Bills and shit, right? And Josh Allen, barring injury and shit, but he can. Josh Allen can win. his running game makes him fucking phenomenally dangerous and shit, right? But he doesn't have to keep running that aggressive because they need to run the ball more. This is like with the coaches and shit, right? How do you stop Josh Allen from hurting himself? Well, run the ball more so he doesn't even have the ball. He won't have a chance. Run the ball more. Run. Get your running game in fucking order and shit, right? The fundamentals. That's why people talk about this stuff. It's like, dude, football fundamentals have always been football fundamentals and shit, right? You've got to run the ball. You fucking wear out that defense because remember, every time when you got all the defensive guys having to chase after the guy, they're getting pancake blocked. Motherfuckers are squishing them and shit, right? Then they have to go and run and they have to tackle the guy and then they're falling on the ground. They're making contact. That fucking wears you out. So then by the fourth quarter, now it's time. Now this is the time. You see, all you need is the fourth quarter because you can have these huge fucking leads in football. But if the team is gassed, all of a sudden it's like, holy shit. It's like the team's not even there and the other team just run all fucking over them and shit. It'll happen like that. So you got to wear them out. You got to play clock management. You got to control the fucking clock. Keep getting your first downs because those are deflating. This is the kind of thing about when they're talking about like the coach of the Campbell, the coach of the Lions. There's these things where it's like you can't go for it because it's deflating to your team. If you kick the field goal, okay, well your team is still positive. Everything is going good. But when you miss the fourth down, that deflates your team. And then the other team goes down and drives on you. Then you make a turnover or whatever. Now your team is fucking shit. And then the Niners are running all fucking over you because you lost your momentum. That's why you don't do that stupid shit. Like, it's not that they always say, well, if you would have gone for it and made it. No. The fundamentals of football are the fundamentals of football. And these dumb motherfuckers, they do this stupid shit, not understanding the consequences of what the negative effect, if you don't get it, what's the negative effect of what it's going to have on the mentality of your team, which will suck all the fucking energy out of them. So that's why you don't do that fucking shit. That's why you don't do the stupid shit. You got to stay with the fundamentals and make sure you keep your team in it so you know at the end of the game, your team is fresh. And as long as you have a shot, you've got the ball at the end of the game and your team is fresh, you be like a Patrick Mahomes and you keep fucking winning because somebody like Andy Reid knows what the fuck he's doing. He understands how to win football games. So these fuckers, when they doing this stupid shit of what they do, it's like, dude, fundamental football. What the fuck are you doing? And like when the league is talking about devaluing the running back, I'm like, what the fuck are you morons? You're going to pay a receiver $30 million, but you won't pay a fucking running back 15? What the fuck is wrong with you? You dumb fucking motherfuckers. Fucking idiots and shit, right? So, also on this list, the only one I would talk about is Baker Mayfield. Now, I have to say, before I say Baker Mayfield, I have a fairly nice Baker Mayfield collection, right? I have probably like 30 of his rookies, all graded. I have I don't have his best stuff because when I was buying them, the prices were still fairly high. Luckily, I got them before the big rush. I was able to move in and get some of his stuff. But even compared to what they're worth now, that was still high and stuff, right? The prices. But like I never paid over $1,000 for a Baker Mayfield card. I can tell you the most I paid for one. I bought and this is where with the community, I bought a fucking XRC rookie, PSA 10 XRC, select XRC rookie of Baker Mayfield for like $900, right? Now that card, after I bought it, they were selling it around $1,700 when Baker got hot and his market had got hot. They were selling for like $1,700, but I'm not a buyer and a seller. So technically there was that thing where even when I bought it at $900, I still could have moved it easily at $1,500 if I was in that kind of business because I could see that his market was still, even when I was just coming in, but the people were talking about, the ultra rare XRCs and shit, right? But then when you really, really learn the market and you see, it's like, well, how rare is an XRC? Because if the card was numbered, how many are there? How many XRCs are there? I think they're probably like the silvers, just off the top of my head, it's probably closer to 300, right? It's got to be at least 200, right? So you can't be talking like a card is ultra rare because that's what the card market, these people were saying, the ultra rare XRCs. And they were saying like, the select field levels silvers and shit, right? They were talking about like these are great cards, and it's like, yeah, they're good cards, but they're nowhere near the value. Like the Baker Mayfield, like the Optic Hollow. Like these were cards they were selling consistently. The Optic Hollow PSA 10, they were consistently selling like around somewhere around like that $900 range. But now they're more like $100, and that's still where they're at. They're down low. Baker's prices are still way low compared to what he was selling at, shit, right? But the other thing is that the market has wised up, and the people are not investing in like that kind of card. That kind of card, it's going to be much harder for that kind of card to achieve that kind of value, because the people that are the smart investors, they're only buying the quality short print stuff, right? They're not buying the cards that have these population reports of PSA 10s and they're over 100 and shit, right? The people have learned that that's not a scarce card and it's not rare. But the people in the market, like when I first came in and I was relearning the market and learning this stuff, the cards that people were hyping up and saying, oh, these are good cards and oh, they're so, and it's like, but then I really learned, it's like, no, you got to have, and like one thing like SEV had said that I know everybody, when he said the color match is not that important, I know everybody said, what the fuck are you talking about? Color matches, like massive fuckingly important. Color matches is like centering. it's like centering and color match. It's like those are like two of the fucking most important things as far as I'm concerned and shit. I want to mention something about that XRC. The XRC of that, because the XRCs change every year. They're changing and shit, right? And so some years I like them, some years I don't like them as much and shit, which they're still cool cards, but that Baker Mayfield one that year, the 2017-18, I love that design of that card. But one thing about the Baker one is, behind Baker, it has red, okay? Which, because I collect Nick Chubb, right? So behind Nick Chubb is also red. But if you look at the Josh Allen or the Lamar Jackson, I know the Josh Allen's for sure blue, and I think the Lamar's blue, but he could be purple. I'm not positive and shit, right? But you have those other colors, which I haven't seen those cards in hand, right? So, like, I'll tell you that the Baker Mayfield, like the Nick Chubb, that XRC card of them, it's a fucking beautiful card with the red behind him. It's really, really, really nice. It's a fucking beautiful card. And so I'd say it's one of the best cards, and I fucking love that card. But I don't know that exactly that it transitions into the Josh Allen. I don't know if it still has that, even though it's the same style of card, it's a different color. And I don't know if that color, like the blue, if it also looks as good as what the red does and shit, right? There could be a difference there that you have to see it in hand and actually see how the beauty of it and shit. But that's one of those little things, the technical thing that I'm not sure about, that I'd have to see it in person and shit to understand it. But I just wanted to mention that and shit, because like I said, I do love that XRC. But when I say that I love, like, I should be saying the Nick Chubb stuff, because that's the stuff I still have my Baker XRC too. But the Nick Chubbs are the ones I have more, because I've got the gold XRC of Nick Chubb, and I've got the 2 tie-dyes, and I got 1 silver in the PSA 10 and shit. But anyways, talking about Baker cards and shit, right? Just letting you know I do have Baker cards. So any of me, when I'm talking about my Baker cards, I'll be as fair as I can with evaluating him as a player, regardless of my cards and shit, right? Because my cards are already like it's like when I make a sports bet. When I make a sports bet, that's it. The money's gone. And if I get money back at some time, then I get money back. But it's gone. Once I've made the bet, it's gone. So like when I've invested the money in the cards, to me, it's like, well, that money's gone. It's there in a card, and I don't look at it as money and shit. It's just something I have in my fucking closet and shit, right? Whatever. Okay, but Baker, and this is why I kept like endorsing Baker over the last couple of years when he was really struggling, and he was really struggling to even find a team, and he was looking bad too. Baker was looking bad, and I don't fucking say he wasn't. But I'll tell you the big thing about Baker is Baker has not proven yet that he can win a game, that he can be the guy that can take his fucking team on a game-winning drive at the end of the game when all the pressure's on the line. I've seen him consistently not get it done. He has not gotten it done yet. But I still believe in him. I still think that he's got a winner spirit in him, and I think he's got the winner mentality and just a little bit more maturity and keep going. And with the right team and right development, I think he can be that guy he can adjust and become better. A good example is like LeBron James. LeBron James was a horrible shooter when he first started. He couldn't hit a three-pointer for shit. He's not a real shooter like a guy like a Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is a fucking sniper guy. He is a shooter. That motherfucker can shoot. The fucker is phenomenal, right? Durant is a fucking shooter. LeBron James was never a shooter, right? But he worked at it and worked at it, and I still don't consider him to be like a real shooter. He's not the real thing, but he did get good. He got to where he can hit shots, and he actually has developed that part of the game. He got it to where he's good, and you could trust on him. He can hit a big shot here, but he's not a sniper like fucking a Durant, who's just a fucking, oh my God, is he so good and shit, right? But he did get good. So that's what I'm saying with Baker. Okay, Baker's not the killer like guy like a Patrick Mahomes or like what I would say like a Josh Allen. Like those guys, they've got that killer fucking thing. They can win. They'll take it down on you. They will bust your ass and shit, right? So Baker's never shown that yet, right? But I think that he's got it in him and shit, right? And he's like he likes being the underdog guy kind of thing. He likes having that chip on his shoulder and shit, right? And I thought Baker looked really good last year as a quarterback because they started getting the ball out faster, quicker release and shit. That's why Tom Brady was so great because he just dropped back and boom, get it out, quick, move it, get the shit. And remember, the Tampa's running game was fucking putrid for most of the season. It was really bad, and it started to come on later in the season. But like if they start working like next year, boom, they work and get a little bit better and shit. Mike Evans is still, we'll have to see if he's still there and shit, but he's still a fucking top receiver. He's still got it, shit. But the team has shown that they can win. The franchise of Tampa, they've been good for a long time because they were so bad in the beginning, but once they start getting better, they've been consistently good for a fucking long time now. Tampa's a franchise that has a winner mentality. They still got some key, really good defensive players on defense. They still are there and shit, right? So we'll see. And then you get the draft. We'll see how it works. You pick up a free agent here and there. Next thing you know, the team is really dangerous and shit, right? So Baker, I think he's dangerous. We'll have to see who he resigns with, what they pay him and shit. We'll have to see how that all plays out and shit, right? We'll have to see how everything plays out because we don't know officially and shit. I think he's going to stay in Tampa, and I think he's going to get a fair deal. I think anything close to around $40 million. I think that's where he's worth. He should not be paid over 40 at all. But even at like 35, I think is a little bit too low for him right now. I think you're looking at like a 4-year closer to like 40 million. So like a 4-year, $160 million deal for Baker. I think that's where they're looking. I think that that's fair market value for him. I think that that'd be a good place for him. I think it's good for everybody and shit. As long as Tampa, because I know that Tampa had like a lot of dead cap spaces last season. So Baker really bailed them out because they were in a really bad position. They couldn't really pay a quarterback. They were going to suck. They were looking to suck this year. But they went to the playoffs and won a playoff game and were right in that game with Detroit. In Detroit, they were going at it toe-to-toe, and Detroit was really dangerous offensively. That team was fucking dangerous and shit. Like I said, they were beating the fuck out of fucking Frisco until the fucking coach doesn't understand fundamental football, and you don't understand how it affects your team when you let the air out of them and shit. Once you let the air out, boom, they're going to get ran over. That's why you don't do that stupid shit. That's why you don't do it. It has nothing to do with it's just stupid. Get your 3 fucking points because those missed field goals don't deflate a team. It's only certain spots, certain places here and there where it totally deflates. But usually it doesn't have that total deflating thing. The defense will come and they'll still be okay and they'll still work it and shit. But the missing on 4th downs and you get like a turnover, that's it. It's all over and shit. It's stupid shit. But so Baker, as far as investing in him, now if he went to the Super Bowl next year or even like next couple of years and shit, right? Because you're talking NFC and shit, which is totally wide open. It's definitely, and he's in a weak fucking division. Okay, so Atlanta, am I thinking Atlanta's going to be who? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what Atlanta, but they're, it's Atlanta. We'll see. And then fucking Carolina, they're definitely not like the fucking wind beaters, whatever you call that. So it's like, and then fucking New Orleans and shit. It's like the good players that New Orleans have, they've been there a long time now. They're kind of like, might be it's like if they don't do it this year, they'll probably be in a total rebuild. The year after that, they'll probably totally dismantle that team and totally go into total rebuild mode, which would be good for Baker, which would set up good for Baker for the next year. So Baker could run that division. He could sign a 4-year deal and he could run that division for the next fucking 4 years. Yeah, he could. Yes, he could. And if you're running to your division, you're going to have a chance to get maybe a number 1 seed in the NFC, maybe, or you get some home field advantage. You're going to get at least one home game and shit, which is going to give him a chance to win some playoff games. If he wins a playoff game, it only takes a few. Next thing you know, you're in the fucking Super Bowl. And see, Baker Mayfield has a name, with being a Heisman Trophy winner and a number 1 draft pick. And remember, he was doing all those commercials and shit, right? They were really pumping him up and shit, right? And now he's went through the stuff, but now he's getting a reputation as being like one of the good guys in the league. He's getting known to being like a good teammate and shit, right? He's a guy that players on the team, they're liking him and shit, right? There was stuff with Cleveland with the Odell, but Odell's a wacko job too. So the Odell stuff, it's like, that's like kind of a wash. You just kind of like, no, we don't care about whatever was going on there. Odell's time in Cleveland was horrible. It didn't go good, but he was still bitching and moaning. He still had not fucking matured and shit at that time. With all the stuff, he still had not matured. It was only after all that stuff, and then he got the injury in the LA. He got his Super Bowl, and he got an injury, which matured him on every level of what you could want him to get matured. It happened. Then he missed a season and shit, had to fight to come back in the league. Now he's mature. I like Odell now. Now I do like him and shit, right? But he had to go through all that. So all the stuff with what Baker, it was still the Cleveland Browns. Baker had went to a team that still had not transitioned into becoming the next stage of being a good team. He was still on the team that was still trying to find their identity. The coaches are changing every year. They don't have a good coach and shit. And then they just bailed out on him. The year that they were supposed to back him, and this was going to be his year, or the last year, they bailed out on him and fucked the whole season up and ruined their team by giving away all the draft picks. They fucked up. Anybody that doesn't think that that was a total fucking mistake for Cleveland to let Baker go, you don't know shit about football. They fucked up. They fucked up. Will it work out for them? I don't know. But I know one thing. They fucked up. By letting Baker go and giving away their draft picks, god damn was that fucking stupid. It was fucking, that was a mistake. Like, if you don't know that, that was a fucking mistake. They should have kept Baker. The last 2 years, what the Browns would have been if they had Baker and shit would be much better than what they were the last couple of years. They could have been competing for a Super Bowl. They fucked up. That's what I'm saying with Baker. I still see him. And the thing about Baker is his cards are really low right now. So it's like, yeah, right now is the time you want to pick up take $1,000, invest in quality fucking Baker, but you got to know the right cards and shit, right? There's some good cards that are going off of Baker really. And he's even kind of like, there's some attention. His prices are still very, very, very affordable. Right now is a time you want to grab up $1,000 of Baker, quality Baker cards, right? Pick up $1,000 worth of them and hold them. Hold him for a few years because he's going to run that division. You're definitely going to have your opportunity to get your money back and maybe hit some good profit and shit, right? If this or that works out good and shit, right? So he's saying Baker's not investable. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? His prices are extremely low. This is one of the things about, like, people have seen his cards, like the cards right now that are selling at $100. We all saw those cards consistently selling at $1,000. People have seen that. There's a lot of people out there like me that are holding Baker Mayfield cards that were like $1,000 cards and shit, right? That now they're fucking way lower and shit, right? And so, but people understand that Baker can command that kind of value. Once they've seen him command that kind of value, he can be it again. There was a TV show called Entourage, and Vinny Chase. And Vinny Chase was he was an actor. He had done the Aquaman, right? He'd become a big star. He got the Aquaman role. And then problems happened and his career crashed down and shit, right? Because it's a dramatic series, right? And then he was talking to this new agent thing and they're trying to find him work. He was struggling and shit, right? And the agent said, once a star, always a threat, right? He said that line. Once a star, always a threat, right? So even though Vinny Chase, he had got the big role, big star, and then he started collapsing down, but he was saying he is a star. People have seen him at that level before, and they can accept him at that position. They've accepted that he is a star. And that's what I'm saying with Baker. People have accepted that Baker can be a starting quarterback and he can lead a team. And he's reproved himself, right? And now he's in a fucking weak division and shit. And if he signs the contract there, who's not to say that he doesn't fucking dominate that division for the next 4 years? And his cards are really fucking low. So yeah, absolutely, Baker is absolutely investable, because he's saying Baker's not investable. It's like, you got to be dumb as fuck. You don't know the Baker market. Baker's cards are low. He's going to run that division once he signs his new contract. His cards are all going to instantly double. Period. One of the most investable guys out there right now is Baker Mayfield. As soon as he signs his new contract, if he signs a 4-year, $160 million deal in Tampa, his cards will instantly double. And the fucking Nationals in Cleveland. So you're still going to have a fan base of people who do like Baker, who wouldn't mind investing and having, let me get one Baker card and shit, right? And then for investing purposes, but it's because they like him and shit. And now they'll say, oh, well, his prices are still fair, because like I said, right now you get a card. There was the card that I was telling Flippin' Steve trying to get, he missed out on it and stuff, but I was trying to get him to get it because there was a select field level green out of 5 and a BGS quad 9.5 that was a 9.5, true Jim Mint. And it only went for $250. It's like, dude, you got to be dumb as fuck to not know that card is after Baker signs his deal, and then they got the draft. We'll see what player they get at the draft. If you don't know that that's a $500 card every fucking day at the National, that green field level out of 5 in a BGS 9.5, if you don't know that is a fucking, and if you want to take the roll the dice, you could crack it out and go send it to a PSA and might get a PSA 10. That would turn it into $1,000 fucking card at the National. It would be $1,000 fucking card if you want to roll the dice and go and take your chance there. But yeah, if you end up with the 10, now you got $1,000 card. I guarantee that's $1,000 fucking card at the National. A fucking select field level out of 5, that's $1,000 fucking card for sure. That's a big card. It went for $250 just the other day. It went for $250. Dude, that card, like I said, I guarantee that card's a $500 card at the National. That's a guaranteed. And SEV is saying Baker's not investable. What the fuck are you talking about, Baker? Dude, you need to get off. It's like one of those things. It's like, I hope you're not that scandalous to telling people not to invest in Baker because you're trying to scoop them up while they're all still low. I hope you're not that scandalous, because that's scandalous. And I don't think you are, because you appear to be trying to give the best information of what you can give. It looks like you try to give the best information. But I'm saying you just don't really understand the long term, the bigger picture, and you don't understand that Baker could still play for another fucking 10 years. People think, oh, he's old. Dude, no, Baker could still play another fucking 10 years in this league. He should easily play another 5 years, easily, and he should dominate his fucking division for the next 5 years. But he easily could play another 10 years in this league and shit, for sure and shit. Baker right now is totally investable. Baker, I would think Baker is one of the best. When I'm looking at the names on that thing, as far as guys right now, the prices that you could buy their cards for right now, that is guaranteed that their prices will double at the time of the National. The only person on that list that I can guarantee you that's going to happen to is Baker. Baker Mayfield's the only one that I would say he would be my best pick. Guaranteed. You buy his cards, you better know which are the right cards. You wait for the right auctions, get your fucking right cards at the right prices, and you should be able to easily move them at double value by the time of the National, which isn't that basically what everybody here is doing when you're trying to invest in shit? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, SEV is saying Baker is not investable anymore. And it's like, what are you talking about? This is the time now to invest in Baker. That's why you don't invest in the guys when they come out right out of the league, which is SEV's telling you to invest in all these guys coming out of the league. And they haven't even played in the NFL yet. And he's telling you that they're all fucking investable. Those are the stupid loser morons who don't know anything about football who would buy those fucking shitty cards. Fuck those stupid fucking idiots, because they want to be able to they're all just jonesing, begging that they can acquire a card like a Tom Brady before he becomes Dynasty Tom Brady and shit. It's like, dude. And so what do? They buy everybody. They buy every fucking player. And then when the one guy hits, all they're going to tell you about is the win. I got him. I got this when he was just a rookie. They all want to be able to tell that story. Why? Because they are fucking losers. And they want so bad to be able to say, I won, I'm a winner, I matter, I'm a real human being. You know, God has to recognize me. You're gonna recognize me? Do you people see me? I'm here. Look at me, I'm a winner. They want so fucking bad to be able to fucking say that shit, right? It doesn't matter. They're all fucking losers, and they're all gonna waste their money chasing all these fucking moron prospects and shit, not having any fucking idea of playing the long game and understanding what the fucking shit, how it moves, the ebbs and flows, and how it goes and shit, right? So, like I said, Baker had his time, but he got hurt. The season when, if Baker didn't get hurt that year, and it's like you're talking about the slightest little things that fucked that up, because what happened was that year that Baker got hurt, the Cleveland Browns started off that season in Kansas City. And the Cleveland Browns absolutely dominated the fucking Kansas City in Kansas City, absolutely dominated them for 3 quarters. And then it was hot. It's the end of the game and it's hot. And Nick Chubb fumbled the ball. And he's one of the great guys that does not fucking fumble and shit, right? Nick, because it was hot and sweaty, and the guy hit it out, and it came out. Nick Chubb lost a fucking fumble, right? Right there was a big fucking... So, first Nick Chubb fumbles the ball. Then the next time they get the ball, the kicker, they snap it back to the kicker, and it, like, he fumbles it, whatever. He fucked it all up, and then, boom, it was another big... So, this is what started happening to them in the fourth quarter. They collapsed and shit, right? First, the Nick Chubb fucking fumbled. Then the kicker fucking lost the ball. And then Baker needed to make that game-winning drive to show that he can win the team in that position. He needed to go win the game, and he probably threw an interception. And boom, they lost that game. They folded, right? But they had the team. That team was fucking good. That they were ready to fucking go on a run, and they were showing how good they were. And they fucking fucked it up. They fucked it up because that's what happens. When you're not there, one little mistake and they don't know how to adjust and they lose it, and the other team is really good and they take advantage of your mistakes. They'll just wait. Those teams that are really fucking good, they don't always have to dominate your ass. They know how to stay in the fucking game. Stay in the game. Give yourself a chance. Don't get too excited. You don't want those highs and your lows. You want to stay steady. Stay consistent. Wait for the other fucker to fuck up. And when they fuck up, get them. Now get them. Boom, 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 pound. And that's what the fucking Chiefs did because they're champions. And the Browns lost that fucking game. The next game after, I think it was the next game after that, because Baker probably is feeling so bad about losing that game before because they were thinking we had it, right? So I think it's the next game. Baker loses a ball and then he's going for it and the guy lands on his shoulder, boom, and fucking boom, he gets hurt. But now he's like, I'm a gamer, I'm going to play, which he should not have played. He as far as the thing, he should not have played, but it's one of those things where you don't know what you're trying, you're trying to figure it out, you're trying to get your contract. There's a lot of pressure on these fuckers, right? And he looked horrible. The whole rest of the season, he looked like shit. Like, there's no doubt that they make the playoffs. If Baker doesn't play that year, the backups would have been better. They would have made the playoffs because they really, really fought and got close to the playoffs and shit. They just didn't get it and shit. But and then they let him go, right? The next year. Yeah, they never brought him back after that. So that's what I'm saying. That's how close it was for Baker. It's like, dude, if they just wouldn't have fucked up that game in Kansas City, then probably that next game, if the world is different, the world's different. And he probably doesn't make the fumble and get hurt that next game. That season could have turned into a really fucking good season for Baker and the Browns. They could have really been dangerous. Then he would have re-signed a contract there in Cleveland. Then they would have started building a dynasty in Cleveland and shit, right? It was that fine fucking line of how this shit actually goes. And then so everybody bells out on Baker, but it was like, dude, he was right there, man. He was right fucking there. It was right there for him, and then everything went. Then he goes to Carolina, is horrible. Then he went to the Rams and showed that, okay, maybe if you get the right system, there's still something here to work with, which saved his career, which was able to bail out because then Tampa, he got lucky that Tampa only had a little bit of money to pay somebody, and they brought him in. But he showed he showed he was better. He was good last year. Baker's a good fucking quarterback. He showed that he was good, right? So his prices are still fucking really low right now. His prices are low. His prices are low. See, that's one of those things. It's incredibly easy to double Baker's prices from where they're at right now. But like if you invest like $1,000 on a CJ Stroud, is it going to be really easy to turn that into 2,000? No. And we got to remember how many CJ Stroud rookies there are out there now. We're talking this modern world. How many fucking CJ Stroud fucking rookies are there? Thousands and thousands and thousands of them and shit, right? And you're going to tell me it's just going to be so easy to turn $1,000 into a $2,000 card? Boom, what if he gets a concussion? I'll tell you what's going to be easy. It's going to be really easy for that $1,000 card to crash down to $100 and shit. If he gets injured and he doesn't play the season, if he has like a Baker Mayfield thing, boom, next thing you know he's out for the season. His cards will very easy. It could be very easy for his cards to go from 1,000 down to fucking 100. But it's going to be very difficult for his cards to go from 1,000 to 2,000. But it's going to be extremely easy to pick up a Baker Mayfield really good card at fucking, like right now, there's an auction on a Baker Mayfield White Sparkle PSA 10. Now, I didn't check really, really close to see the centering, which that card is one of those cards that it's hard to see the centering on. But it's one of those things. It's a PSA, so you need to really check the centering and shit. Even with that, even though it says PSA 10, you still want to look and make sure that it's really centered well, right? Because that shit matters and shit. That's a matter of like somebody that really they'll wait for the card that's centered, because I'm not going to buy a card that's got, I don't give a fuck, it says PSA 10. I want the card to be centered, and I don't like how PSA does that and shit. That's one of those things like, I want the fucking card to be centered. So you got to check. But I can tell you right now, Baker Mayfield right now at auction, I think it's still up for a few more days. He's got a White Sparkle PSA 10 that's going off an auction. That card was, dude, you could not have got that card for under $2,000, you know? And I'm pretty sure that it'll probably go for around the 300 range. I would think it'll probably go around that 300 range. We'll have to see what it goes for. It could go a little bit higher, maybe a little lower. It definitely will not get to 500. There's no way. But whatever it goes for, you're talking about a highly desirable card. That PSA 10 White Sparkle of Baker Mayfield, the Prism. It's the Prism White Sparkle too, because that's better than the Optic White Sparkle and shit. But yeah, it's the Prism White Sparkle. As I say, so right now there's a Prism White Sparkle Baker Mayfield right now at auction. That's a card that if you're an investor, somebody like that or whatever, you should be looking at that fucking card, right? Like I tell you, I give it to you. It's there. Go check it out. And track it, because now that's one of the cards that's going to tell you what the prices of the Baker's Mayfield cards are worth right now, right? We're going to see what that card sells for, and we're going to know what the market really is, because that's one of the cards that will tell you what the Baker Mayfield market actually is, because that's a fucking highly desirable card. It's a card that you want. Like I said, double check the fucking centering. You have to always double check and ship. You always have to look at the card and make sure that the fucking label's not printed wrong. You always have to do those little things yourself. You always have to double check little things like that. Make sure the centering is centered. Make sure the label's not misprinted, because they fuck labels up and shit. Make sure it's not fucked up. Make sure you can see the back of the card. Make sure there's not a crack on the case and shit. Like those little things. You always have to do that yourself, your due diligence, to make sure that you're getting the right card. But if everything looks good, watch that card for Baker. See what it goes for in a few days. We're going to know what the Baker Mayfield's at right now for a quality card like that and shit. We'll see what it's at. But that card, like I said, if that card goes for like 300, you're going to tell me that you're not going to be able to sell that card at the National for 600? That's only 600 for a Baker Mayfield White Sparkle PSA 10 Prism. Yeah, that you're going to be able to move that at 600. So when he's saying Baker's not investable, it's fuck yes, he is. Actually, he's totally investable right now. Baker should be back to being right now. He should be one of your investable guys, because his card prices are low. They're still fucking low. They're still at like 10% of where they were fucking selling at consistently. Like I could tell you, there was a Baker Mayfield, a Prism Red Wave, a PSA 10 that just sold at auction. I had seen a couple sold the last few weeks. We're selling a little bit over $100, but one just sold the other day for like $93. I'm just like, shit, because that card was consistently selling at $900. Consistently, it was like the $900 to $1,000 range. That card was selling at that price. And so one just sold the other day at $93. You're going to tell me that card's not going to be worth $200? It only, dude, look at what it has to do. To go from 93 to 200, that's not going to be hard to do at all. It will do that, right? So Baker right now is easy money. buy Baker right now. You need to know the prices, what they are. If you're getting those kind of fair deals, just think about like what's it going to take, whatever the price you pay out now, what's it going to take to double that card? Is the card that you're buying a desirable card? You really need to know what are the desirable cards, check your pop counts and shit. Understand what are the quality cards, what people want. Understand what the prices were before compared to what they are now. If they're still selling it like 10% of what they were, yes, they're extremely fucking desirable because it's going to be really easy to double the price, to go from 100 to 200. That's not asking a lot at all, especially when you're talking about a starting quarterback who has just signed a fucking 4-year deal for a team. Yeah, his cards, as soon as he signs the new contract and we know that he's in the league at a good fucking price, he got paid some money, people trust him. As soon as he signs that contract, his card prices will double, and I think he's signing a contract. Somebody's going to pay him close to $40 million on like a 4-year deal. Somebody's going to give him that deal. There's enough teams out there. He'll get a deal. He's going to get a 4-year, $160 million deal and shit. I hope it's in Tampa. I think that's where he should be and shit, right? But that we'll have to wait and see how that plays out and shit, right? But like with the red wave card, what I'm saying, I think the red wave card looks good for like a Tampa fan. If you're a Tampa fan and you want to invest in a Baker Mayfield rookie, that Prism red wave card, I think that's a good one. And it's only going at $100 on a PSA 10. Are you fucking kidding me? Shit. Fuck. All right. Okay. Yeah, I covered enough of that and shit, right? Rambling, talking about football and shit. Okay. Talk to you guys later. Goodbye.